Okay, A9, ready for a VOD review on DPS. Hey Snee, I've gotten into a match, and here's the code. Gold for DPS. For this season I've been learning a bit of Ashe. Typical main is Genji. This match we're on Havana, my lead DPS picked Ashe, so I ended up flexing onto Hanzo. Later switched to Genji to contest the DPS. Played a little Sombra, we'll get to that. We ended up losing. Overall this match was difficult. Our tank was complaining about my other DPS, but I just couldn't find ways to make up for all the lost picks and kills. So I guess you sort of have to treat any game as if you're deadlifting the DPS. Until you get higher up where it starts mattering about sort of, well, not that it doesn't matter about enabling your teammates or synergizing with them, but it's not going to be a huge difference maker. There's still, ranked is still very much a solo carry sort of mindset you got to be in compared to any team environment or scrim setting. So we can take a look. In terms of just a hero pool, noticing Ashe, Hanzo, Genji, I don't know how much of a main Genji main you are, or if it's a one trick, or if it's just your preferred hero, but you don't seem to, like, none of these heroes are really brawl heroes, so not to say that you can't make Genji or Hanzo work, but just a notable thing, it shouldn't do any issues here because we're on Havana. So we'll take a look at the code to see what we can find. We're going to focus on the Hanzo, and if we have time we might note some things about the Genji, but for now we're just going to watch the Hanzo. So be a little bit careful just off the bat about standing out in the open here, because a Widow will very often like to peek here. So we can throw a Sonic down there and then still be spamming this spawn door, but just be careful. Don't want to get picked early. This is fine. No rotating. We throw Sonic out. We're not really Sonicking anything there, but that's okay. Looking for the tank, looking for the tank. And a warning shot. Unlucky. I'm gonna kite. Genji's gonna die. That's another Sonic arrow that's just gone sort of in the middle of nowhere, so keep an eye on that. Diva's just standing up there alone. We can go take this now. We can go take back our position. Like hiding. I think we're playing a bit scared because the Orisa isn't holding space too well, but we don't need her to hold space for us. As long as we're in LOS of our honor, we're doing okay. Yeah, okay. So, off the bat, what we're seeing is sort of a lack of aggressiveness, in a sense. And I'm not sure if it's because you say you've been playing Ashe this season, but they picked Ashe and you don't want to play Genji, so Hanzo's sort of the least comfortable out of these three heroes that you're on. But we sort of didn't really... We weren't really forced out by anything, right? Like, we were sitting up here the whole time, and then at one point Genji pushed through here and defended, deflected, sorry. But then we were looking, I think that was before, and then the soldier came out here, we were looking for that pick, Mercy ended up healing, and then Cart started to push around here, and their Genji went in and died, I think. I don't know, let's watch the replay from bird's eye view, because I just think there was no real threat to us up here. We didn't really need to leave. If the soldier had successfully pushed underneath here, I would get it. but I just think there wasn't that. So he deflects. We get lucky that it sort of clips the bottom and doesn't tag us, otherwise he could have punished us for it. Soldier tries to rotate, gets denied. We're looking for the Genji, we throw out a Sonic. We're still low, but sitting up here, and maybe we help our Ashe then. I was just going to say, sitting up here gives better LOS being higher up to our team. Yes, we're out of the Moira's LOS, but if the Ana is just going to sit in the back, the Moira can carry, can worry about the tank, and then the Ana can focus on supporting us. And the difference here, not only could you have maybe forced the D.Va out with your Ashe, but when you occupy this, this area is not safe for him. He's alright because he's using the wall to LOS you. Mercy can't position up here, and D.Va's going to take damage from multiple angles anytime she steps up onto objective. Because in this matchup, your only threat is the Genji, slash if he has a pocket on him, right? But for the most part, it's just the Genji being able to get vertically up to you, or Soldier pulling off a massive rotate up to the high ground like that. But assuming he doesn't, you don't let him do that, or don't let him do that for free, or don't see him doing that and rotate out of here, then your real threat is just the Genji. And so if you're marking the Genji through using Sonic, like marking your flanks, you can just be positioned here, throw down a Sonic here, so that this whole area, you have information on it, and then you can take duels with the soldiers, or you can be throwing logs onto the backline. And if D.Va wants to come up and pressure you, that's fine. We have our dash, we get out, we cut LOS, we can even wall climb up to buy time for ourselves and hug this wall so that, you know, people have to get onto this side to be able to see us and shoot us. You know, there's a lot of ways that we can buy time as Hanzo to survive when it's just a Genji. And a Genji that's not necessarily getting support. Like, this Mercy is probably going to tether more to this soldier anyway. So, we should never be at a disadvantage. But that's just what the first sort of death slash point reeked of, is just we spent a little bit of time up here because we even started over here. And then as I got up, then we started playing around here. And then as they're pushing here, we drop back to here. And then as Cart's coming around here, we keep going even further. We just never really take that angle. We're always sitting on main, and for the most part, we're shooting at the D.Va besides when the soldier took a off angle and we lobbed a couple arrows down to the back line. So if we're sitting up here right now, and Cart is where it currently is, again, that denies pretty much like all of this area to be safe for the enemy. Because as Hanzo, we can just pop out at any time and one-shot someone, right? That's the threat of Hanzo, and the fact that it's pretty comically RNG as well sometimes. Whereas if we're here, the space that's safe or unsafe is sort of just like here, because any further back, you're not really, like, if you were here maybe, then like still this area is, but they now have access to this whole high ground. They now have access to be able to play anywhere, like behind, like maybe this point, and be a bit safer. So, and you don't need a wrestler, you don't need a mercy pocket, you don't need people to be able to do these things. We can be here completely on our own. We keep LOS of our honor, that's a bonus. If not, we just need to recognize that if we're not going to have someone supporting us or someone holding this space with us, then we need to respect when they are going to push us out. So if D.Va flies up with boosters, uses micro missiles, DM, whatever, That's resources invested, we get out. We can always come back and retake it and force her to deal with us again, but that's what we need to be doing. The second thing was Sonic. First Sonic went down somewhere near spawn. Second one went also somewhere around the open, and then the third one went here. So I just want to touch on it for a second. Sonic is absolutely a tool used to make 1v1s more favorable for yourself. Very rarely are you going to use it for your team's sake, unless you guys are like trying to push towards point or push towards choke, retake point, and their whole team is not seen, like that you think they're setting up somewhere for like a sneaky play or something like that, you know. Otherwise it's pretty much a selfish tool. Now the way you would use it then is, say you win this team fight, right, and then Carter's up here, but they're all 5 of them are going to push out of spawn, except you only see 4 people in main, 4 of their team, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, everyone but the Genji, right? If you don't see that, and let's assume he didn't die at the end of last fight, just for the sake of the scenario that you can't see him walk across here, you're like, where could he be? And then you think you hear footsteps somewhere, you're not sure where. Sonicking either this door to give yourself information on this whole area, or sonicking this door to give yourself information on this whole area without needing to physically look at it. That is the benefit of Storm Arrow. It's going to be the fact that we can, as a Hanzo, we don't have to look at that to have information on it, because we can see them all here, right? It doesn't, sonicking either of those doorways right now doesn't do anything, because it pretty much gives us the same information as what we would have had. Whereas if we're here looking at this doorway, or if we were playing up here and we were really like playing deep so that they couldn't see us, like really using the ledge to cut LOS from certain people, but we had a Sonic down here on the card even, then we'd have information of the entire, like the most threatening area for the Genji to utilize to get on top of us. Because if they can't get onto us without us knowing, then we're automatically taking a more favorable 1v1. And the same thing can be said for when, if you were retaking this right now and you played up onto here, if you're like, I can hear the soldier to my left, I'm going to sonic this cart so I can get information of here, and then you can jiggle peek off the ledge and then take him out. Or he'll respect it and he'll rotate away, right? But if we're just throwing out Sonic willy-nilly like here so that we know we can see who's on cart when we're not looking at it, it's like not a very optimal use of the ability, and it is sort of an ability that gets underappreciated a lot. So yeah. So like I'd like to, it'd be good to be critical of something else, but you're really not giving yourself an opportunity to see if there is any other things contributing to this death or contributing to this lack of input or impact on the team fight, right? Like you're talking about being able to carry the teammate when he's struggling. It's like, well, we're not exactly being punished for being aggressive right now. We're sort of aggressive in that we tried to peek this doorway, I get that, but we missed our shot, and then we should have kited, because it was really easy for the Genji to then see that arrow and be like, oh, there's a Hanzo right here, and he closed the gap on us for free. So that was just like a mismatch. You missed your opportunity, you overstayed your welcome, but the key issue is that you should have been overstaying your welcome here, because it would have held a lot more space for your team. You only did this little peek around here because the Orisa pushed in, so this wasn't even necessarily a proactive play. It was still reactive to your own teammates, and that makes it difficult to carry sometimes when you're playing reactive to your teammates, reactive to the people around you. I just wanted to put the 2 points. I forgot to what I was originally saying, which was combining these two, like playing for these power positions and utilizing storm arrows is going to give you a lot of value in terms of controlling space as a DPS and controlling aggression from the enemy. Because let's say the fight has progressed to this point, right? That's unfortunate. I keep doing that. That's unfortunate, but whatever. We're stuck here. I'll even rewind it just a little bit. No, we're still dead. Okay. Maybe even a little bit more. Yeah, this looks nicer. Okay, so that's another Sonic by the looks of it. So this is Overwatch in a nutshell, is that you have main, which is like the objective, the quickest part to the objective, or the travel path of cart. And then typically you have lane 2, lane 2 and lane 3. And there's different, like there's intricate things that go between them, like this little high ground here is obviously like a bit of a alternate lane, but it's still main, where the soldier is right now. He can't go any further in on the map, but he's not on main either, he's still on third, so it's like, you know, there's intricate little things about it. But regardless, 3 main lanes. As Hanzo, if you're sitting here, you're in control of this zone, right? That logic is sound, right? If you're positioning on this lane, you are controlling this lane. You are managing the aggression on this lane. Now, if you're doing that and then you're sonicking here, because we don't need information on what's right here. We already know that, unless we're going to use it to aggressively jiggle peek and surprise someone. But that's even harder to do now because of the new nerf that they gave it, where enemies can see what's been sonicked. Like, sometimes people would miss the audio cue or not realize that they'd been sonicked, and then you do get an opportunity to really abuse the fact that you can see them through the wall and then pre-aim your shot. Nowadays, they see they get sonicked, they get scared, they use cooldowns, whatever. They know you're going to peek it, they're ready for you. So that element of surprise is gone, which makes that a less applicable aspect of the ability. So for the most part, if you sonic this, the soldier knows that, but that's fine. He's now thinking, shit, like the Hanzo is watching me. Like I got to be careful right now. And so that means you're effectively controlling 2 lanes as one person. And that means 4 people are now contributing to this middle lane and potential tank trade or whatever they end up doing. But the point being, we can own, at the moment, we've really been positioned not even so much on the other lane, more so on like the outskirts of main, and we've been sonicking main, which means that we're like mass committing to controlling this main lane, and what makes it difficult is that we're constantly going to be shooting tank because of it. So really start to look for these aggressive angles that you can take on your own. It's like, yeah, you missed the shot here, and then it's like, okay, we need to go. Like, we missed our opportunity. Pardon me. Unfortunate, but that happens. We tried to get out, and then we just deflect. Like, we can wall climb to just buy some time for ourselves, and then take a better 1v1. But enough of my rambling. I'll try and get through some actual VOD now. Again, not a terrible Sonic this time, because you're giving yourself information before you're about to peek it. But still, you know there's 2 people on cart. Don't just throw it out willy-nilly. Like, think about what you can hear, who's in front of you now. Like, both the DPS are in front of you. That tells you exactly who's on cart, right? And Ooh, pardon me. It's still effectively a tool used for threats. Whether that's threats to your team or threats to you, that's what Sonic's going to get the most value identifying. Because threats can be tanks too, but in this case it's not really. Threats are the other DPS, specifically the Genji, because he's the one that's going to be contesting you in less favourable 1v1s than the soldier. Because unless the soldier's playing at like the perfect range, and then you most of the time you're going to be able to outrange and outdamage him. What did you just headshot the soldier? Yeah, you did. God, Hanzo is a hero. We got lost a bit in the source with the Genji. That's okay though. Oh, very nice. The Orisa pull. Okay, now talking about lane control and positioning, what are we going to do? Are we going to sit back here and wait for them to come in? I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to Sonic that choke, wait to see who pops up, and then pre-aim a shot to that corner. Well, instead, what I think you could be doing is lobbing some arrows from spawn over here. You know, like how quickly can they close the gap to you? Slash, how aware will your teammates be of you right now if you're the only one up here? Like, I'm not saying rely on it, because you know, even in Grandmaster the people can just be like not paying attention to you, but unlikely you're not going to get support if you really need it, and pretty easy because of the amount of cover and the access to high ground that you can get out pretty safely too. Otherwise, I'd like to be positioned up here. Hard position for anyone to really engage up on you. Easy cut LOS of the enemy team. And still maintaining LOS to your backline. This one's obviously a bit close because you don't see where they are until they're through this door, and that's a bit close for comfort. I think is the difference between holding this lane and holding the other one. Now that's not to say that, talking before about lane control and using Sonic, utilizing Sonic well, is that who's to say we can't be here Sonicking, and instead this is a different application, right? We're using this angle to pressure, we're using this lane to pressure that lane, and we're Sonicking here to give us essentially what is like essentially walls, right? So like for us, we're making this wall not exist so we can see and we get information, whereas they have to go around it to get information, right? So those are the two different, I was waiting for a scenario to come up in which I could explain that. That is the other scenario.
You have my thanks.
Because in this situation, to get a good angle, you're positioning quite close. They used to call it distance from angles in Overwatch 1. It was more to do with a lot of Zenyatta gameplay and flankers. But it's still applicable here, where anywhere you're playing here, in any lane, where you're holding a power position, you're not playing very far distance from angles. And when Hanzo's a long range hero, barring his storm arrows, that's less than ideal. And so you may be forced to use Sonic close to yourself. And even the difference right now between where you're positioned and up here is the fact that we're not able to cut LOS of this soldier easily anyway. We're just taking a lot of poke damage. Whereas Hanzo, we really like to be able to sit in covers. So utilizing, let's just say using here, we like to be able to sit in cover, draw the arrow, peek, fire, hide. Same as like Ana in between her shots. She wants to be like peek, hide, peek, hide, peek, hide. Because anytime you can limit the amount of time that you're receiving pressure without putting it out, so getting shot at without shooting, is a good thing. That's just about utilizing cover really well. And as well as things like this, obviously we played really close to our team. Ash dies to the dragon blade. No, she doesn't. He doesn't actually. We died to the dragon blade, and then he's going to clean up the rest of our team. Again, little unnecessary wolf arrow. A sonic arrow. And again, it's a little rushed. So just try and when you get into your next games, just really value it. Like, don't just shift because I'm walking out of a choke and I don't know what's around there. Like, you don't know what's around there on any other hero, but you somehow make it work still, right? Like, as Ash, you walk out right now. How do you handle the situation without Sonic? You just handle it, right? But when we're doing this, we're missing our opportunities to then, like, use it in another scenario, which is maybe we want to shoot here, and then once we get to here, or like, maybe once we get to here, then we'll shoot it here, and then we'll use the information to jiggle peek a shot here. Because we're not going to jiggle peek anything when we're front lining and everyone knows we've just been Sonic'd. You know what I'm saying? Oh, we don't need to do this. We have plenty of time until Cart gets to the checkpoint. And we bobbed. Nice. Nice. Alright.
My ultimate is charging. Scanning.
Now, what do we think of this position? Same sort of thing, right? The Genji's going to be able to get on you, and the D.Va is going to be able to get on top of you really quickly, and it's going to make it a really difficult duel. So a little bit of DPS fundamentals there is just taking 1v1s, knowing what your hero strengths are, knowing how they match up against the enemy DPS. Genji doesn't notice you. That's interesting. You and this Genji, wow, okay, nice. We got caught out a bit of no man's land here. A little bit of panic, a little bit of what we call plat aim, of just, I'm not hitting my target, oh god, I've missed a lot of shots, I'll just get close to her and shoot her. Just hold your angle, hold your position, especially after you killed the Genji. That was a really good kill, and then, like, you've just earned this space. Like, this is really hard to contest. And people are low on cart. If you're going to play snipers, it's really never your job to touch cart. And if you lose a game because of it, there's probably a million other reasons why you lost that game, and it's not. It's one game, so don't worry about cart. The only reason you should be touching it is if it's you and a support who's alive. Because obviously they can support you on the point, you can't support them on the point. We're not going to get this, we're just going to stagger ourselves in a sec. Okay, good, we got out. Coming up on 30 minutes, so I want to just get through a few more examples. Nice shot. D.Va messed up a bomb. Another nice headshot. Alright, we're logging people. See, again, I just think there's not a lot, like, you're just not even thinking about the Sonic. I think it's sort of a subconscious just, oh, it's off cooldown, I'll shoot it now, and I'll shoot it or whatever. So really don't underestimate the value of it. It's very good. And we're doing it a little bit again, and it sort of was by us like running towards card at the end, which is that we're sitting in main again. Now if we take a look, I'll give you an overhead of third point. We've got lane 1. Then let's do red. We've got lane 2, which goes under the bridge and around the back of the castle. And then let's do lane 3, which is sort of up here under the castle. And then, as it turns out, it sort of turns into this. And like through that doorway / through that doorway and on the top, right? So those are the 3 lanes, right? Pretty self-explanatory. As Hanzo, what can we be doing? Well, we can be positioning, if I get blue here, as Hanzo, if we position here, let's say in this little doorway, right? I'll do that again. In this little doorway of this building, we have a nice long angle to spam from. Down here, we have angles onto point, and then we can Sonic this angle to get information and then keep spamming down here. Or we can be Sonicking anyone who tries to push in this angle, and that'll give our team information on that, essentially limiting their options to pushing into our spam, into our like choke that we're spamming, or going into our Sonic, and so we know that they're there, or they have to funnel through main. So like you're really like making them pick between a bunch of bad options, really like picking the worst, the lesser evil in a sense. Now, deleting all that. Instead, what if we positioned on bridge and or even if we positioned here, let's be more aggressive because that's what I'm trying to get you to do anyway. If we positioned here, we have an arguably, it's not as tight of a choke, so it's easier for them to potentially dodge / duel you, because they're not just picking this really tight angle that you're spamming logs down. But what it does do is it gets more on a flank. So I'll draw another colored line here. This is a lovely painting I'm making. If that's the front line, I don't like how messy that made it. If that's the front line, as Hanzo, we are now, the difference between these 2 positions is that we're still shooting into front line here, which isn't bad, but sometimes that's all you can do because this is too aggressive of a position and you may get punished for it. But if you can get away with this, and I think limit testing is the best way to learn that, this has access onto the squishies who we want to be shooting, because we don't want to be spamming tank unless our team comp dictates that we really want to be winning the tank battle, which not really in this case. Diva's going to look to go for more of a frag playstyle because there's no dive threats on her backline, and Orisa is just going to be looking to live to outlast the team fight until you get picks or Ana gets a big nade and she can go really aggressive and brawl onto the Diva and stuff like that. All right. So going back to what I was saying, positioning like here, right? We can be either Sonicking onto here to give ourselves specific information on when to throw arrows there, or we can be positioning here, spamming / like dancing around either side of this tower, and then we can be Sonicking here to know what is on this side of the map. And this is like sort of maximizing your reach on the team fight. And the same thing would go for here, right? When card is pushed up, let's say card is like pushed up to this point. As Hanzo, if we're sitting up here, we Sonic probably in front of us, right? So that we have information when we're jiggle peeking. And then we're using this angle to spam onto the back line instead of sitting down here and having to spam past the front line. Right? Or the other, say cart's even further, and let's say cart is like here. If we sit here, we Sonic here so that we have information while we look to throw damage down here. Or if we're playing aggressive here, we're throwing Sonic onto here to get information on where we're about to shoot. These are the different scenarios, and it's all about knowing, okay, what do I need to do right now? Am I trying to control the map, or am I trying to go really aggressive and look for picks? Because sometimes that's all you can do, is just sit in the back and spam down a choke. And if that's the case, then go for it, sit back here. But this is still denying the difference between sitting in main, like we're doing, and sitting here. Yeah, they're both passive. Yeah, they're both shooting into front line still. But being here is denying all of this space for the enemy. Whereas being here is going to allow their team to use this as a way to get through this bad area. But yeah, that's the main things I have to say. It may have been a little bit macro focused, this VOD, but the point being that Hanzo's not like this is still very much a DPS concept, not just a Hanzo concept. The Wolf Arrow, or the Sonic Arrow rather, is definitely more specific, but this still applies to Ashe and in some effects throwing dynamites, right? And it's definitely a thing with Genji because we like to utilize the outskirts of the map to get onto the backline as well. Just want to see how this round ends. Nice dragon. Yeah, unlucky. We went on a bit of a journey, but I just want to point out one thing. This will give you an indication of how scary you are, I guess. Now, not to confuse this with the bad habits of a gold Zenyatta, but this is how not threatening you are to him. Now, he's a squishy, and I know you're dealing with the Genji and helping your own team, but I can tell you a lot of supports are terrified of Hanzo's, and he has at no point been threatened with death. And this is the best position you've taken this team fight, and it instantly got value on the soldier. But now we're dropping down for no reason, and then we get punished for it. I'm not saying you somehow 1v5 clutch this up. But say the soldier's dead, you holding this high ground probably prevents the Mercy from rezzing. See, that would actually, right there, is actually an example of what I've been talking about this whole time. You forced Genji to play there, you sonicked him, now there's an instant recognition of the new nerf that he can actually see he's been sonicked. But you're currently sonicking this, so denying this area, and sitting up here, so denying this area, and all of them are grouped up in main. And you're about to reap the rewards of it by knowing that you're perfectly safe up here to the point where you can just kill the soldier. And I think, I don't know if you wanted to go for the Zen and then saw the Mercy going for the res, but I guarantee if you just sit up here, this is the easiest headshot you ever hit, and then you kill the Mercy, and then all of a sudden, well, hold on, it's a 2v2. It's you and Mei versus the Genji and the Zen. And it's like, well, the Zen's won now, maybe he would have died too. And then maybe Genji kills you, but then your Mei's taking a 1v1 on point, and someone gets back in time. So don't underestimate just the effect of, you know, when you get a pick, just sit. You know, this was sort of similar to the first point where that diva sort of didn't even push you, but pushed the cart forward, and all of a sudden we felt as though we needed to run away. It's like, only give up the position if they force you out of it. But yeah, gone a bit over half an hour, but I feel like I rambled at the start, talking about Hanzo and map control in general, but hopefully you find this helpful, and I hope that either get to see some of your Ashe or Genji next time, or we get to build upon this this Hanzo gameplay instead. So yeah, pretty decent overall. I just also thought about your initial question, which was how to find a way to make up for all the picks and kills. Maybe it's not about getting picks and kills. Maybe you got to do more. Instead of trying to carry the other DPS, you try and synergize more with other people on your team, like the tank, and maybe you just play this real tank buster sort of comp and play Reaper or something like that. There's definitely other options. It's not all about just being the best DPS in the lobby, because sometimes the best DPS in the lobby are the ones who can enable their teammates the best. So don't ever count that out either. But I hope this was helpful, and yeah, let me know if anything doesn't make sense. I'll get back to you about it.